Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of North Dundas, today being November 19th, 2025. Call the meeting to order, moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that the meeting of the Council of Corporation of the Township of North Dundas be hereby called to order at 4:30 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. The adoption of the agenda, are there any changes, amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Annable, that the agenda be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and nature thereof? Seeing none. Right off the bat, we have a public meeting, and it's about 2134 County Road 31, Winchester. We have two planning meetings for the planning department this evening, and we'll start with the first meeting. That's 2134 County Road 31, and Director Pohl will start with the first presentation. Director Pohl.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So we're looking at two zoning amendments. I'll go through one at a time. One is an actual zoning amendment, and the second one is a temporary use amendment for a 3-year period. So the first zoning amendment we're looking at is from an applicant. His name is Ed Byers, and it's for 2143 County Road 3. That's just north of the Pioneer gas station. Just for those that are unfamiliar with the changes to the Planning Act, only a specified person, a public body, or a registered owner may make oral or written submissions at or before this public meeting. They're the only people that can apply the decision of council of the Township of North Dundas to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So specified person is not a neighbor or anything like that. That's actually people like natural gas companies, Union Gas, and that kind of thing are the specified persons that they describe in the legislation.
Excuse me, Director Pohl, if I could interrupt you. This is somewhat new to all of us. If you could just give a little bit more of an example to the people we have in the audience and those that are out in the public paying attention on YouTube. Who was eliminated from making those public submissions or oral submissions?
Just make sure that's clear. So what's eliminated is any neighbor, a local resident, a business that's local. They've basically been removed from appeal ability to, or an ability to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So you would have to make your voices known to council if you disagree with the amendment, and council makes the final decision. That is only appealable by public bodies such as South Nation or the United Counties or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing or Union Gas or School Board is another one that could appeal. They're considered a public body. So it's very, very limited in who has the ability to appeal anymore under the Planning Act changes that have come into effect in the last 2 years. So there's been a lot of changes to the Act, and that's one of the key ones that's come out.
Thank you very much.
So the application we're looking at this evening is the subject lands. They're currently zoned light industrial exception 4, and they're looking to rezone that to a highway commercial C2 zone. So as you can see, the lands in the image there, it's just north of the Pioneer gas station going up County Road 31, or Bank Street, it's also known as. It's legally described as part of Lot 24, Concession 7, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 8R 5648 in the former Township of Mountain, which is now the Township of North Dundas, in the County of Dundas, municipally known as 2143 County Road 3. So we advertised this public meeting, which is a requirement under the Planning Act, 20 days in advance of this public meeting. Signs were posted on the property. You saw in the previous image the sign on the side of the road. And a notice of the public meeting is mailed to all property owners and agencies and public bodies, all within 120 meters is the requirement under the Planning Act. So the existing use of the property, it was proposed to be different than it is today. It was supposed to be a big coverall structure with a business on it, and these changed over the years to the village kitchen and dairy bar, and they're currently unoccupied. The proposed use is to rezone the lands to allow for a restaurant as a permitted use to allow the owner to proceed with the construction and renovations of the existing features to support 2 drive-through restaurants on the subject lands. Here you can see the sign. So the official plan currently has it within a special land use area. It's an enterprise district, not an employment district. There is a difference. Enterprise districts allow for commercial and industrial type uses. It's a combined designation from the official plan. And the current zoning, as I mentioned moments ago, is light industrial exception 4. The proposed zoning is to go to highway commercial, and the site is approximately 1.04 hectares, or just over 2.5 acres in size. So as I noted, the proposed zoning is to rezone from the ML4 to the commercial, highway commercial C2 zone. And the effect will, if it is passed by council, the effect will allow a restaurant as a permitted use on the property and to permit the owner to proceed with the construction and renovations of the existing facilities to support 2 new drive-through restaurants on the subject lands. Part of council's responsibility is to consider the provincial policy statements that exist, and under those, it talks about accommodating an appropriate range and mix of land uses, talks about promoting densification of the economic base and employment opportunities, as well as the use of existing infrastructure should be optimized. We also have the county's official plan that must be considered, and this is what I talked about moments ago. Also is the Winchester Enterprise Special Land Use Area, which allows for industrial uses, commercial uses, manufacturing, warehousing, offices, employment supportive commercial uses, including associated retail and ancillary facilities, public service facilities, as well as institutional uses. So it allows a wide range of activities within that designation. So the property was rezoned in 2017 by council, and it was approved for light industrial. As I mentioned earlier, he was going to build a coverall on there for his business, which was Empire Structures. That never proceeded. He started with a foundation, but never proceeded from there. They ended up putting a dairy bar on the site. Surrounding land uses, as you can see in the zoning map that's up there, it's commercial, you got residential, you got agriculture, rural, and industrial in this area of the municipality. We received comments from the South Nation, and they were consulted, and they spoke with the applicant to ensure that all approvals were obtained relating to the property being located within a wellhead protection area. We have a well almost across the street from this subject property, so they're within the influence area of that well. So any uses that could potentially contaminate that well are not permitted or cannot be established. This particular case is 2 restaurants, so it's not a use that is prohibited. So that can proceed. We also received comments from the SD&G Transportation Services Department. They had no objection or concern with this location being rezoned. And we also received no comments from the public. And with that, I'll turn it back to the mayor if there's any questions or comments from members of the public.
Thank you, Director Paul. So if there are any comments from the public that are in attendance about this matter. Is the applicant here, Director Paul? Do you know?
I don't believe so.
No. Any comments from council? Councillor Uhrig.
I guess clarification, was this site operating under the wrong zoning to have a restaurant there, or is that one of the exceptions under exception 4?
Yeah, that was one of the exceptions that was added in for the dairy bar.
So now rezoning it just eliminates
Yeah.
the other potentials and would be strictly commercial restaurant.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I guess that concludes this meeting. At this point, we're going to move into our second public meeting. It's referring to 503 Shearer Way, Winchester, Ontario, and Director Paul will start with the presentation for the second meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So our second application is actually a temporary use for a 3-year period at the Steel Deuce site, which is at the south end of the municipality. I won't go through all the details as they'll be repeated. As I mentioned earlier, only specified persons, public bodies can appeal the decision of council. So here we're looking at the temporary use of 8 shipping containers as additional storage for a maximum of 3 years. A temporary use bylaw can only be in effect for 3 years. It can be renewed by council, but the maximum period is 3 years. You could do a 1-year one, a 2-year one, or a 3-year one. This proposal is for a 3-year period. So this is the location. It's at the southern part of the village of Winchester, at the intersection of 31 and 38. It is a prominent location, which is the entrance to the village at the south end. It's located at 503 Shear Way. So through the public consultation process, we put signs up on the property on October 29th, as well as mailed out notices to all the neighbors within 120 meters of the subject property. So the existing use is steel building manufacturing. That's the building that was erected. He's into steel structures. The proposed use is the continuation of the above, but adding the temporary use amendment to permit the temporary use of 8 shipping containers as additional storage for a maximum period of 3 years, or until a new warehouse storage facility is constructed. So he plans to put another building on the property, but he needs time to do that, and he wants to keep these shipping containers on the site for the period of the 3 years in the interim. So the official plan has it within an employment district. It's also in the enterprise district in this area. The zoning bylaw has it within the commercial exception 1 zone. So this would be a commercial exception temporary use 1 zone to add the temporary use onto this particular property for the period of 3 years, and it's a 3-acre parcel of land. So this is, the amendment will allow for the C1-T1 zone, and the effect will be that he would be able to permit the use of 8 shipping containers as additional storage for a maximum of 3 years. Once again, we have to look at the provincial policy statements as a requirement of the province, and it allows for accommodating an appropriate range and mix of land uses, and it promotes diversification of the economic base and employment opportunities at these types of locations. And once again, similar to the previous one, it's within the Winchester Enterprise District Special Land Use Area, which allows for industrial uses and warehousing. These storage units are basically a warehousing type style of use on the property. We received no comments from ministries or public bodies, and no comments from the public. And with that, I'll turn it back to the mayor for any comments from the public.
Thank you, Director Paul. Are there any comments from the public in attendance for this meeting? Seeing none, any are the applicants present, Director Paul? Any comments from the applicants? None?
Nope, he's not here.
Okay. Any comments from council? Seeing none, that concludes our second public meeting. Thank you, Director Paul. We're going to now move on to our drainage meeting to consider Section 76 report from Monica Shade of the Shade Group.
Perfect, thank you. So good evening, and thank you to members of the public and council for your attendance at the meeting to consider for the Henry Elliott Municipal Drain and the West Branch of the Kittle Creek Municipal Drain. My name is Monica Shade, and I'm a professional engineer with Shade Group. I was appointed by the municipality to prepare an engineer's report under Section 76 of the Drainage Act, which is an update to a schedule of assessment to allow for maintenance of a previously adopted Drainage Act project. So my presentation will include an introduction on the purpose of this meeting to consider, a brief history of the existing drainage systems, the reason that this process was initiated, a summary of my engineer's report, and an overview of what the next steps will be in the process of adopting the new report. So this meeting serves to formally present the engineer's report and allow members of council and affected landowners an opportunity to provide input and ask questions before provisionally adopting the report. Following discussion, council will decide if the project should proceed or if there's any reason that the report should be sent back for revisions. Assuming that the decision is to proceed, the report would be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw. The notification that went out inviting members of the public to attend this meeting included a link to where the engineer's report that is being presented could be found. The letter is also offered that if a landowner, or the letter also offered that if a landowner preferred a paper copy, the township could provide this upon request. This update included 2 different municipal drains under a single update as the drains have overlapping watersheds. More specifically, the Henry Elliott Municipal Drain outlets into the West Branch of Kittle Creek, and as such, the West Branch watershed boundary includes all of those assessed under the Henry Elliott Municipal Drain. The Henry Elliott Drain is governed by an engineer's report from 1974 authored by A.J. Graham. The 1974 report is described as a repair and improvement report and included details that maintenance had been previously done in 1964. There was no details included as to the original construction date. The Henry Elliott Municipal Drain is approximately 7,600 feet in length and outlets to the West Branch of Kittle Creek Municipal Drain. The West Branch of Kittle Creek is understood to be governed by an engineer's report from 1967, also authored by A.J. Graham. The 1967 report included some historical details, including that the Kittle Creek Municipal Drain was originally constructed in 1895. A report for the West Branch repair was authored in 1937, suggesting that the system is over 100 years old. A minor improvement report was also conducted by Shade Group in 2023 on the West Branch, realigning a short section of the open ditch through Lot 15, Concession 6. The West Branch has a total adopted length of approximately 8,300 feet and drains out to the main drain of Kittle Creek Municipal Drain. Altogether, the specifications found in the aforementioned reports would be considered the governing specifications for maintenance of these drainage systems. So this slide is intended to provide a quick overview of the drain, with the pink line representing the watershed boundary of the West Kittle Branch. The green outline is the sub-watershed for just the Henry Elliott, and then the blue lines represent the drainage channels, with HE being the Henry Elliott and WK being West Kittle. All of those lands encompassed within the watershed boundary directly or indirectly drain into either the West Kittle or Henry Elliott drain, or receive benefit from the presence of the drain, with some properties draining directly into both. Shown in orange is just a few of the neighboring municipal drains or natural water courses. So this Drainage Act process was initiated by the township as the previous governing assessment schedules were out of date. This updated report allows for fair division of costs across all of those within each of the 2 watersheds, including lands that have been severed since the previous adopted report. The respective assessment schedules would be referenced for maintenance works moving forward. Township staff mailed invitations to landowners within the watershed for an on-site meeting, which was held at the Morewood Community Center on September 11th of this year. 5 of the total 13 landowners attended the meeting. No further concerns or questions have been raised with Shade Group since the initial on-site meeting. At the meeting, attendees shared input on past maintenance activities, location of tile headers, and we had a general discussion about the process under the Drainage Act. A copy of the preliminary watershed boundary was presented at the on-site meeting for landowners to review and comment on, though no major concerns were raised regarding the delineated boundary. Input provided by landowners was taken into consideration as part of finalizing the watershed boundary presented in the report. The scope of work covered in the engineer's report was limited to updating the schedule of assessments to allow for fair billings of future maintenance costs. As the overall land use was generally consistent with that from 1974 and 1967, and only minor changes have taken place, the updates have been made in reference to the previous accepted governing assessments. Changes have been made to areas drained where applicable to reflect the updated watershed boundary, but the general cost per acre as adopted in the previous reports has been referenced in assigning costs to those not previously assessed. Properties have been assigned either outlet or benefit liability, or sometimes both. Outlet liability is generally assigned to all properties and is the cost associated with having a legal outlet for runoff from lands. Benefit liability is generally only assessed to those directly abutting the drain and assigns an additional assessment as the presence of the drainage infrastructure is seen as a benefit to those lands. The presence of the drain on those lands or adjacent would generally be considered to provide an increase in land value to those properties compared to if the drain was not there. In fitting with the previous governing report, there are a few properties that have only been assessed benefit and not outlet. And an example of such a property might be a property that tile drains out to Kittle Creek main drain. While their land may not directly drain into the west branch, the presence of the west branch intercepts water that would have previously drained onto their land. So having the west branch there serves as a financial benefit to that property by having less water flowing onto their property. The summation of the outlet and benefit assessment is then used to determine the relative apportionment of costs assigned to each property, and that same ratio of costs would be assigned for future maintenance works. We also prepared an initial construction cost estimate based on typical maintenance practices with input from the township's drainage superintendent on typical historical per meter maintenance pricing. So upon completion of my presentation, members of council and landowners will be given an opportunity to ask questions. Following the question and answer period, council will decide if the project should proceed or if the report needs to be sent back for edits or additions. Assuming that the project proceeds and no changes are requested, the report would be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw. Once passed, the bylaw would be mailed out to all of those within the watershed, along with an invitation to the quarter revision. The quarter revision is the first of 3 opportunities where appeals can be made during this process. Each appeal body is responsible for handling specific types of concerns. The quarter revision takes place locally and gives property owners the chance to appeal their assessment costs. If the appeal involves technical details of the project, it would be directed to the tribunal, while legal matters would be appealed to the referee. Unlike the quarter revision, which is always scheduled, hearings before tribunal or referee only happen if there's an appeal filed. If a landowner is considering filing an appeal, please be sure to submit the necessary paperwork to the clerk in the appropriate timeline. If you do have questions or would prefer to speak privately about the project, either myself or Jamie, the township's drainage superintendent, would be happy to meet with you. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll pass it back to council for the question period. Again, if you do have specific questions about your property, such as how your assessment was calculated, feel free to speak with me either after the presentation or reach out to the township's drainage superintendent for my contact information, and I'd be happy to set up a call to discuss.
Thank you, Ms. Shade, for that presentation. Are there any comments from the public within the watershed in attendance for this meeting? Seeing none. Any comments from members of council? Seeing none. So that concludes. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Urick.
Just a basic question. I assume there's no presumed impact given that there's realignment happening right now with the Kittle Creek along there, right? Am I thinking the right spot? The landowners
Are they
rerouting?
starting on the West Branch realignment finally that I did 2 years ago? That is already factored in, if that is what we're talking about.
Yes, I
That
believe we're talking about the same spot, but
yeah.
I know you've got lots
Yeah,
going
yeah,
through,
yeah.
so I get it.
No,
It's okay.
so the paperwork for that realignment was done 2 years ago,
Yeah.
so that the permitting and everything was done at the same time.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of impacts to the assessment schedule, so we've done the updates to reflect the changes in parcel fabric that came from it. I
Yep.
didn't feel that moving the drain from kind of here to here
No.
provided a measurable change
And I
into
didn't expect it
in
anyway,
how
but
the assessments were
Just
calculated.
the fact that the work is finally
Yep.
happening there, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yep.
it's all,
Yeah.
all relative right now.
But
right?
it is
So-
now reflected at, like, there'll be a map
'Kay.
on the files now that has the new alignment, and all of the, like, the infrastructure, the alignments that exist today will all be on one map.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Shade, for that presentation,
Thank you.
and that'll conclude that. Bylaw, we're going to move into a bylaw number 2025-36, S76 Engineers Report, West Branch of the Kittle Creek and Henry Elliott Municipal Drains. This is moved by Councillor Annabelle, seconded by Councillor Lennox, that be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-36, being a provisional bylaw to adopt the engineer's report under Section 76 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990 CD 17, for the West Branch of the Kittle Creek and Henry Elliott Municipal Drains be read a first and second time in open council this 19th day of November 2025. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Is there a delegation here from Dairy Fest? Oh. Adela. A delegation. It's been a long time since we've had a delegation. Aaron Della, please come ahead. I thought you were just coming back.
Check 1, 2. We good? All right. May I? All right. Well, thank you all for having Dairy Fest prepare as a delegation. I'll keep this very brief. I'm the treasurer of Dairy Fest. Our current chair has only been in the position for about a month or two, so they didn't feel that they were quite qualified to represent Dairy Fest. This Dairy Fest, the one that just passed in August, there were 5 members of the committee. Now we are down to 3. Hopefully in the new year we'll find some more. So I'll just give you a few highlights of what we did in August, and if you have any questions, you feel free to ask. So as you probably all know, Dairy Fest has been whittled down to a one-day event. That's mostly a factor of the number of volunteers that we have organizing. Everything's at the arena. We don't have anything downtown. Again, a factor of not as many volunteers able to be in 2 different places at once. And we no longer have a dance. Year after year, we were losing money at the dance. We tried DJs, we tried bands, we tried just about everything, and we kept losing money, so we decided to take out the dance. We do, on the other hand, have roller skating that runs throughout the summer at the arena. Some of you have attended, or at least your children have, and we're quite proud of that. And the one thing that we do like to advertise and promote is that we're one of the very few events or fairs that has 0 admission. The roller skating is free all summer. There's no charge to come to the bouncy castles. There's no charge to be on the grounds to see the car show. Everything's free, and we've always tried to keep it that way. I'll briefly go through a few financials. So we had $12,000 in sponsorship, and we spent about $9,000 of that. We have a lob ball tournament that goes for throughout the 4 days, Thursday through Sunday, and that netted about $3,400 after paying the umpires and equipment. And we have a Dairy Dash, which is a 5K, 2K, 10K run, and we had quite a few people sign up for that this year. We made $750 in registration fees. I'll just highlight some of the bigger events and then some of the smaller events. The car show is back. We lost it for many years, but they did come back. We're very grateful for that. There's, again, the roller skating that happens on the Friday night, Fireman's Breakfast, the Dairy Dash, the Lob Ball Tournament. There are beer gardens, but they don't make the money they used to make. As a matter of fact, our beer gardens pretty much broke even. We have the vendor fair and the bouncy castles. And then the smaller events include, we have a craft table, Mini Maestros, which is a children's event for toddlers and young babes, face painter, live music, puppet show, Lego car races, Mario Kart remote control car races. We have a Biggest Splash competition at the swimming pool, and we do offer a free swim. At the end of everything, we were up about $6,000, so we did donate some money to the community. $750 to Community Food Share. That's all the proceeds from the Dairy Dash, the 5K, 10K run. $1,000 to the North Dundas Fire Services. $1,000 to the Chesterville Rotary Club for the pavilion, the gazebo at the waterfront, and $1,000 to the Greater Nation Arts Collective, which is a new group that is running arts programming for children and adults, but we're donating $1,000 for kids that wouldn't normally be able to afford an 8 or 10-week arts program. We'll cover their bursaries. That's the summary of it. Thank you all for, again, your support over the years. I know the township gives us the facilities and a little injection of money and any administrative support we need, and we're very appreciative of that. And that's it. We'll do it all again next year. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Della, for all of that. And let's see, Councillor Lennox is more than ready.
Puns don't go, through here without having one thrown back. I did enjoy your delegation. It was utterly amusing. But you mentioned you needed some volunteers. What seats on your committee are you looking for? This is your time to get it out there to all the viewers and social media world.
Well, we definitely need somebody to do some fundraising, someone that goes out and collects the sponsorship money, contacts the businesses. We don't have a secretary, somebody to take notes at each meeting and take the minutes. And we definitely need some volunteer coordinators. That's somebody that goes out and finds volunteers for the day of. So sometimes we can't run an event just because there's no bodies around to actually get it done. And then if somebody wants to run an event themselves, somebody has an idea like they want to do go-karts or, I don't know, a model airplane or paper airplane events, people that would actually run new events or take on old events that have not been done because we haven't had the volunteers to run them. So people that are interested in running an event.
Great. I also like to hear that the committee is open to change and evolving with the new culture that's in place. The other thing on my mind was how would they reach out to you or the chair and submit their ideas?
Well, if you go to the website, there's a contact us page, and there's an email address there that you could reach us through, or we have a Facebook page. I don't know the exact name of it at the moment, but it says Dairy Fest on it, and you can reach us through Facebook Messenger.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox. Further questions, comments, thoughts? I really have. I've really enjoyed the activities that take place in. Not that I've enjoyed witnessing the activities that take place inside with the bouncy castles and all that, and the Mario and all of those things that are put on the arena slab. The parents of youngsters really. Because I would bump into them and I would ask them questions about how they feel about that. And everyone likes that idea. They can stand and visit with their friends and keep an eye on their children and know that everyone is safe and secure and easily found as opposed to being outside near Main Street and things like that. So that indoor aspect really is attractive to a lot of people and it's well appreciated by most everyone that I've spoken to. It is unfortunate the challenges that the Dairy Fest committee faced at the end of this past Dairy Fest and some of the comments received on social media and how that was all detrimental and it was easy words, poor choices of easy words or easily expressed by people that weren't committing their time and efforts to be volunteers and it was really unappreciated by most and unfortunate those words were spoken and without stepping up and doing something and contributing just to besides being on social media expressing their thoughts. I look forward to success whenever people reach out to apply. I know a lot of people have a passion for Dairy Fest and have fond memories of Dairy Fest in the past and have high hopes that Dairy Fest continues even in the format that it is now. And I'm glad that Councillor Lennox asked a question about volunteers. It is a wonderful event, as you say. It's virtually no cost at all. No cost for admittance, and it's a lot of fun for people of all ages. The car show is a great attraction. I look forward to that taking place year after year now, and I look forward to the viability and longevity of Dairy Fest continuing. I need to express to you, I haven't had a chance, Mr. Della, to express to you my thanks and appreciation for your time spent with the movies, and but my apologies for not doing that in a public forum. But I do appreciate your involvement with Dairy Fest. You are a steady guiding hand with lots of experience, and it's well appreciated and well needed. So thank you very much for all your support of Dairy Fest and the continued support of Dairy Fest.
Thank you. I realized at the last minute I forgot to say thanks to Deputy Major Bergeron for being there for our committee. She cracks the whip sometimes and gets us going. thank you very much, Teresa, for being on the team. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to move into staff reports and Director Hewitt. Adoption of the 2024 audited financial statements, moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Uhrig, that be it resolved that Council receive the 2024 financial statements from the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas, presented by BDO Canada LLP, this 19th day of November 2025. And with Director Hewitt is Nick Blanchard.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll turn it over to Anik in a couple moments to walk through the auditor's report as well as the financial statements. Just wanted to highlight some of the responsibilities that we have under the Municipal Act as it relates to the audit. One of the key things that I'm sure is not new because it happens all the time, under the Municipal Act, we are required to report per the PSAB, which is the Public Sector Accounting Board financial standards, which are different than how we budget. We budget under a modified cash basis, essentially meaning that when we purchase capital assets or we do transfers to reserves or we do debt repayments, we raise sources of funding in the current year to pay for that, including from the tax levy. But when it comes time to the financial statements reporting, there are some nuances and changes to how those actually appear. Under the Municipal Act, we are required to appoint a licensed auditor who audits the accounts and transactions and expresses an opinion on the financial statement. For 2024, similar to 2023, it is issued a qualified opinion, which means that the statements fairly present the township's financial position and results of operations, with the exception of the implementation of a new accounting standard, public PS 3280, which is asset retirement obligations. And Nick may go into a little bit more detail on this, but essentially municipalities and public sector bodies are required to recognize the costs of legal obligations that we would have relating to tangible capital assets where there is such legal obligations, such as underground fuel tanks, asbestos remediation, and things like that. I did want to highlight to council that it is the plan for the 2025 year-end audit to have it reflected into there, and the 2024 comparators will be updated as appropriate. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Anik from BDO.
Perfect. Thank you. It's nice to present to you today. You have a similar report to what we've presented in the past. So basically our communication to council, required communication to those charged with governance. I won't necessarily go in details on all of the slides because you did have the package beforehand and it seems similar year to year. I'll just highlight a reminder. If you look at pages 4 and 5, yeah. So this slide and next slide talks about the fraud risks. So just a reminder, it's not a forensics audit. And as part of the audit, however, there's requirements to look at where there could be material misstatements due to fraud. So we look at each financial statement area and determine if there's any fraud factors to consider. And based on those, we plan our response and do our work. And then there's required communications with those charged with governance, so council, as well as with management. We'll cover a couple of points later on the specific standards. On the next slide, it's the audit at a glance. So we mentioned materiality. Sorry, I need glasses for close now. Materiality is 530,000. So basically, that's the maximum amount of errors that even if you had those in the financial statements, users wouldn't make different decisions. So whether it's funders, in your case mainly funders, or if there was lenders. We do use the word trivial amount that we mentioned, so that's 5% of materiality. So any error that we would have found above that 5% threshold, we would report back to this to council. On the next slide, we talk about the status. At this point, the audit is completed. So once council approves the financial statements, we'll be able to finalize finalize our report, finalize the statements. And I want to acknowledge the big help we got from management. It wasn't easy. There was a number of changes this year, unfortunate, and nobody's unfortunate changes. But they were able to provide us the information to be able to finalize the audit, so we were very appreciative of that. This slide is on audit findings. So basically, we have to take a step back. So for each financial statement area and determine what the risk of material in the statement could be. So from low, moderate, elevated, and significant. In this slide, it's the significant risks that are being disclosed, and those are the ones that we have to report back to those charged with governance. Revenue recognition, so it's one that's a standard significant risk, and where we tag it is mainly on tax revenues of individuals that live in the township. So that's where there could be issues in theory, but based on the work we've done, there was no issues on the amount of taxes and the amount of taxes receivable. Liability for contaminated sites, that was a standard that was established maybe 6-7 years ago-ish. And basically, we take a step back to ensure that there's no liability required to be disclosed, and it's fine based on the work we've done in conclusion with management. The next one is management override of controls. This one is not specific to the township, but for all audits. And basically, because management is in a position of approving or doing the actual controls, they could override them. So we look at specific journal entries to ensure there's a business rationale, they're properly approved. There's also the element of unpredictability that's being added, so there's no concerns. We've talked about the taxes part, and then the new accounting standards, which Marcus, your treasurer, mentioned. So we do still have the qualification. And once we get, basically the only impacts it would have is increasing your liability and increasing your capital assets. So what it's creating is once that liability for remediation is recorded, you increase the capital assets and then you amortize those, both of them over the course of the useful life of your asset. Then there's this, we can skip this one and the next one because we'll have those in an appendix. This slide is other required communications. They're all none or none noted, so I don't propose to go into details. There's a number of slides on the audit process, resources, so we can skip those. It's fun reading if there's. Then we have our management letter. There's two points that are present. The first one is on the revised accounting standard for asset retirement obligation. So we've discussed that one. And then the second one is on a specific point coming from our information systems auditors, mainly on the evidence of review of users. So it's not that the control's not happening of ensuring that individuals that leave the township are not removed, but there is no evidence of review at that point. So that's something that can be implemented. And then the last 2 pages there's one that's the journal entries that were posted as part of the audit, and then the last slide is the summary of unadjusted misstatements. The only item that's there is the WSIB liability, because that's, in the past, the township used to be a Part 2 employer, and you're technically supposed to accrue for that expense or what the impact could be. And they're based on the regulation that changed back. This one is maybe 8 years ago or so. Example, there was an increased rates for firefighters and so forth. So it's an amount that WSIB used to provide a report. We just keep on here but because it's not recorded, but very far from materiality. On the statements, I won't go in that long. You do have the first statement is the management's responsibility for the financial statements. So it's required because of the public sector accounting standards and shows that they're not our statements as auditors, but management is taking responsibility. So that will be signed at the same time as the auditor's report. Then the next 3 pages are the auditor's report. And as Marcus, your treasurer, mentioned, there is a qualification, but mainly only on those 2 items, on the asset retirement obligation, which has an impact on that liability that's missing, and then landfill that should also follow that standard once it's adopted. And we've confirmed before this meeting that that change will also be done at the same time. So when we look at the statement of financial position, so showing the assets, liabilities, net financial assets, as well as non-financial assets and surplus at the township. So you have the financial assets at the top, which are the assets that are cash or easily transferable to cash. So we're at 14.5 million at the end of December 2024. Then you had your liabilities at 26 million. There's an increase compared to last year, but it's mainly more long-term liabilities, so it's not a surprise. And then there's the net debt at 12 million. And then at the bottom, you have your capital assets that are what most of the non-financial assets are at 91 million. When we look at compared to last year, the increase is partly because of the addition, so the capital assets that were purchased by the township for 12.8 million. But there's also a 2.9 million that's a non-cash item. So basically when builders do a subdivision, there's a requirement for them to do specific work for the township. And when that's completed, then that subdivision or that asset is transferred to the township. There's 2.9 million that represents that. So not an actual cost to the township. And then the accumulated surplus, would I refer, if you're interested in knowing the split, is going to note 10, because most of them are already committed, either reserve or reserve funds. And then you have the statement of operations, so showing the revenues, the expenses for the year. Shows also the comparative for 2023 as well as the budget. So you can see that the revenues were 21.6 million, just a little higher than budget, and then expenses were at 18.1 million, so slightly above budget as well. And then you had the annual surplus of 3.8 million. But out of that 3.8, there's a 2.9 that I was mentioning that's being transferred from the for those assets. And then, so those assets, you have a surplus this year of 2.9, but in the future you'll have the expense. So that's why PSAS is kind of odd, because you record the revenue a lot faster. And then the next statement is the changes in net financial assets or net debt. So showing that how you went from the 3.9 to the 12.1. And then the next statement is a statement of cash flows. So reconciling the cash of 5.5 million to the cash of 8.6. And then we get to the notes. There's more information on amounts on the statement of financial position, on the statement of operations. I don't propose to go into details unless there was questions from council, so either for me or for management.
Thank you, Ms. Blanchard. Questions, comments from council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I have 3 questions. Retirement obligations, could you give us examples of, I think the landfill is one, but what are the other ones? Second question is, I see that we went from a debt in 2023 from 2 or 3 million and now we're 12 million. Is that new assets having to do with water and sewer, which I assume, because I know we spent a lot of money in water and sewer. And then there's a line with minimum payments in 2025, minimum payments of $3,240,000. Those payments that add up to 3 million, is that just interest, or is that interest and principal on, on loans that we have?
Thank you very much. Through you, Mayor Fraser, to Deputy Mayor. For the first one, other examples of the AROs, that you're right, it would be anything that has a legal obligation that we will need to pay some remediation retirement costs on. So, anytime you do work on a building with asbestos, as an example, right, there's a legal obligation. And so as part of the work of implementing this standard, it's doing that inventory and coming up with a reasonable estimate that satisfies, the audit of what the total of those costs would be if we had fuel, underground fuel tanks, if we had and as you were saying, the landfill as well. I'm not sure, are there any other material ones in your other experiences with municipalities?
The biggest one is asbestos in buildings, especially older buildings.
Under the debt, you're right, that's the increase in debt as a result of the water, wastewater. And so that's that increase from the 3 to the 12 million. And then with respect to the minimum payments, under the commitments. Oh, okay, so that would be for future contracts that the municipality has committed to. And so I believe it's number 12 in the financial notes, providing some of the big examples, snow removal as an example being 550,000. A contribution agreement for Hallville Park as around 720,000 as well. So those, there's the itemized list there in note 12.
So that amount that you're mentioning is at the top of page 21, but then the split or which agreements are included in that amount are at the bottom of page 20. At the page of page 20.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Ms. Blanchard. Thank you, Director Hewitt. We're going to move on to corporate services / clerk. Director Johnson, approve policy 58-2013 salary / wage administration policy as amended. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Be resolved that council approve policy 58-2013 salary / wage administration policy as amended. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can we go back to the adoption of the 2024 audited statements? The resolution was read, but it wasn't moved or seconded, so can we go back and revisit that?
Certainly. Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. I'm pretty sure I did. I remember that, Councillor Uhrig. Nevertheless, moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Uhrig, be resolved that council receive the 2024 financial statements from the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas, presented by BDO Canada LLP this 19th day of November 2025. Moved by all those in favor. Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried.
Thank you. Okay, so for the salary and wage administration policy, we are required to have a wildlife evaluator. So if the coyotes attack wildlife somewhere, we have to have somebody that goes out and looks at it, takes pictures, and fills in the reports. We have Richard Skeepers that does that. He has been doing it for us for several years. We haven't increased his salary since 2022. We're paying him $100 per claim plus mileage right now. He also works for South Stormont. They've been paying him $170 per claim plus mileage for a number of years. They're reevaluating their salary, so I am proposing that we go up to $200 per claim, effective immediately. So far, we've only had 7 claims this year, so it's not a huge financial impact, but it's really tough to find somebody that can do this.
Thank you. Questions, comments? See none. All those in favor? Opposed? See none. That's carried. We're going to move to the next one. General Municipal Insurance Services, moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Annable. Be resolved that council award RFP number ADM 2025-01 for General Municipal Insurance Services to Marsh Canada Limited, and that the clerk be authorized to provide additional information to Marsh Canada Limited to formalize various insurance coverages, and that the CAO be authorized to sign any documents required to secure general municipal insurance services for North Dundas for the policy period December 31, 2025 to December 31, 2026. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Insurance is one of the largest expenses that we have, and it's been steadily increasing. So this year we went out to RFP looking for general municipal insurance services, and we received 3 responses. We did look at all of them and evaluate them based on the criteria that were outlined in the RFP. And based on that, Marsh Canada Limited scored the highest. And we still have to provide them some additional information. So, for example, the RFP went out on a Monday, and that night we actually had an accident with a fire truck. So they won't have that information. There's some other things that we have to give them, VIN numbers and driver abstracts and that sort of stuff. So the actual final number that we get from them, we don't really know what that will be yet. But I am anticipating, based on what we've seen so far, that our insurance this year will come in between 50 and 60% of what we paid last year.
Thank you. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to move into Development Services and Director Pohl. Excuse me. Bylaw number 2025-74, Animal Shelter Agreement with the Township of Russell, and that's moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Lennox. That bylaw number 2025-74 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Township of Russell to continue to utilize the Russell Township Animal Shelter be passed and enacted this 19th day of November 2025. Director Pohl.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser. So we're looking to renew the contract with the Township of Russell. We did a one-year trial to utilize their pound services. It has been very cost-effective for us compared to what we used to do, and it's much more cost-effective for us rather than us building a pound and having our own pound and maintaining it and all the rest of that goes with it. We're looking at a 4-year contract with Russell to carry us into the next 4-year period. Included in the new agreement, they've asked that we include a protective care clause, and that deals with somebody if they're incarcerated and they have a pet at their house, that they will take the pet in to the pound and hold it for a certain period of time until somebody can come and get it from a friend or whoever they can arrange to get the animal back into their own possession. So they've added that clause into the agreement, so that's the only change to the agreement. They froze the rates at the same rates that we had last year and this year. So this contract will start January 1st. They've asked to get it ahead of council now so that they can get in front of their council, get it approved. So that's why it's before council now.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I have a quick one. The protective care, who initiates that?
Often it would be the OPP calls our dog catcher to come and get the dog, and then our dog catcher would bring the dog to the pound.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. We're going to move on to bylaw number 2025-77, moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Urick. Be resolved that bylaw number 2025-77 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 79-6 to amend the zoning of the property municipally known as 2134 County Road 31, Winchester, Ontario, from light industrial exception 4 ML4 to highway commercial C2 be passed and enacted this 19th day of November 2025. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Bylaw number 2025-78, moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 12-93 to amend the zoning of the property municipally known as 503 Shearer Way, Winchester, Ontario, from commercial exception 1 C1 to commercial exception 1 T use 1 C1 T1 be passed and enacted this 19th day of November 2025. Questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. That's carried. Being a bylaw number 2025-02, Schedule A update, moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, seconded by Councillor Annable. Be it resolved that Schedule A to bylaw number 2025 being a bylaw to delegate certain powers and duties to officers and employees of the Township of North Dundas be approved as amended this 19th day of November 2025. And I look to Director Pohl for if he has anything to add to that before I call the question.
mentioned that we are currently allowed to do temporary use bylaws. The example was tonight, where I felt that was a significant bylaw. There's 8 shipping containers being requested at the entrance to the village. I wasn't comfortable just signing a bylaw like that says sure go ahead for 2 years because it's at the entrance of the village and it's not just 1 container, there's 8 containers. That one I delegate said we'll bring to council for its council decision. For a lot of garden suites, they are a standard thing. You're allowed a second unit on a property. A garden suite is a second unit on a property, but it's under a different category in the planning act. It's section 39. It's 39.1. You're allowed to put a garden suite on a property for a senior that is related to you, or a parent, father-in-law, mother-in-law, that kind of thing. On the property, you have to have an agreement with it as well as a bylaw. Right now, it's not clear in the bylaw to say, yes, I have the authority to allow temporary uses, but that's a temporary use for 20 years. It requires a separate bylaw and a separate agreement. So this would delegate to myself, so that it's faster, quicker, and get that approval and not charge as much. The next meeting, I plan to bring an amendment to our tariff of fees bylaw to reduce the fee down for those kind of amendments. You are currently allowed 2 houses on a property in the rural area, and 3 units on a property in the urban area for full services. Garden suites are different because they're tax-free. So there's an advantage to a garden suite. You don't pay property taxes for that unit because it's a temporary use for up to 20 years. 20 years is considered a temporary or not. They changed the legislation 5 years ago from 10 years to 20 for garden suites. And now they've allowed second units on a property as of already. But there is an advantage of a garden suite for 20 years it's tax-free. So you won't pay property taxes for that unit. It's supposed to be temporary and part of affordability removed afterwards. So we're just trying to speed up the process for those. We're not disadvantage somebody with a garden suite for having to go to council and get the bylaw through for that authority to delegate down. It's allowed 2 units on a property anyway. So whether it's a garden suite or a second unit, either way it works. You don't have to get an amendment for something. So we're just trying to speed up the process. So that's the amendment proposal.
Thank you for clearing that up for me. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none. That's carried. Madam Clerk, Chief Raistrick? You'll speak to Chief Raistrick. So we're going to move on to fire. Bylaw number 2021-45, fees and charges amendment is moved by Councillor Annabelle, seconded by Councillor Lennox. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-45, being a bylaw to establish fees for certain licenses, permits, certificates, and various services, be approved as amended this 19th day of November 2025. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see from this bylaw, it gets updated quite regularly. In October, the last meeting we had, Chief Raistrick brought it in for an update, but they didn't have all the previous amendments that were in there. So this has just been brought back more as a clerical thing. This one is fully complete, including the amendments that were made last October.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? There's none. That's carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to move into transportation. Director Cheney, bylaw number 2025-22, request to abandon Law Ridge branch of South Morwood Municipal Drain. That's moved by Councillor Lennox and seconded by Councillor Uhrig. Be resolved that bylaw number 2025, being a bylaw to abandon the Law Ridge branch of the South Morwood Municipal Drain, be passed and enacted this 19th day of November 2025. Director Cheney.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser, members of council. In May of 2025, staff received notice from a landowner requesting the abandonment of the Law Ridge branch of the South Morwood Municipal Drain from station 0+00 to station 52+50. As per the Municipal Drainage Act under section 84, staff sent a notice to all landowners of the land assessed for the drainage works, stating the intention to abandon the drainage works. As per section 81, any owner within the drainage watershed could send notice to the clerk within 10 days to request the report of an engineer. No owner sent notice to the clerk within the 10-day period, and therefore, as per section 84, subsection 5, council may, by bylaw, abandon the drainage work, and at any time thereafter, and the municipality shall have no further obligation with respect to the drainage work. Staff recommend proceeding with the abandonment of this branch drain.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. The activity summary, July, August, September 2025. Does anyone speak to that? Seeing none. Bylaw number 2025-68, the third reading of the Beggs Workman Municipal Drain Maintenance. That's moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bergeron. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-68, being a bylaw to undertake maintenance for the Beggs Workman Municipal Drain, be read a third and final time, passed and enacted this 19th day of November 2025. Director Cheney.
Thank you, Mayor Fraser and members of council again. Back in September 2025, council accepted the request to undertake maintenance for the Beggs Workman Municipal Drain. As this, the assessment for this drain goes into our neighboring municipality, under the Drainage Act, our council needs to pass a bylaw in order for us to do maintenance on it and assess the neighboring municipality. So this will just be the third reading of that bylaw.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None, that's carried. Thank you, Director Cheney. We're going to move on to Recreation and Culture. Mr. Cousineau is going to give us an update on the Chesterfield Arena sound system.
So to provide council with an update on the Chesterfield Arena sound system upgrade, which was included in the budget amendment approved by council in the July 30th meeting. So just a little background, staff have consulted neighboring municipalities to gather feedback on the arena sound systems they currently have, including those utilizing Octosound equipment. Staff have also been engaged with contractors who supply and install Octosound. Through our findings, Octosound is durable, efficient, and designed to perform in cold temperatures and high humid conditions, so perfect for our arena climate. The current status of the Chesterfield Arena sound system remains fully operational. Major user groups have been consulted and are all satisfied with the current system. That being said, staff recommend including the sound system as a 2026 budgetary item. This adjustment would reduce the total estimated loan cost by $20,000.
Thank you for that update. Questions, comments for Mr. Cousineau? Councillor Lennox.
Acting Director Cousineau, could you just explain how we ended up with Chesterfield Arena sound system from the Winchester sound?
For sure. So council had requested with our former Director of Recreation to visit the Chesterfield sound system. So that was actually included in a budget amendment taken to council on July 30th and was approved. But seeing how we're not moving forward with Winchester at the moment, it doesn't make sense to do Chesterfield in a hurry whenever we can include it as a 2026 budgetary item.
Perfect. And one other item, I see loan written out there for $20,000. Is the intention to go get a loan for a speaker system?
So, no, so that was what was passed by council in the July 30th meeting in regards to the capital upgrades. So like exterior doors, the Olympia was included, as well as like compressor, I believe, for that loan.
Okay, perfect. One other question. So the Winchester Arena is not getting a sound system, correct?
In 2026, yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I was just browsing through here, saw a few things, just wanted some clarity because July was a few months ago. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Is there anything further for Mr. Cousineau? Thank you very much. We're going to move on to Environmental Services, Director Ward. Bylaw number 2025-72, capital charges for water and sewer, moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Annable. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-72, being a bylaw to set capital charges for water and sanitary sewer connections in the township of North Dundas, be passed and enacted this 19th day of November 2025. Director Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So as council will recall, we at the last meeting decided on water and sewer rates for 2026. As part of that, council moved 20% of the capital charges we currently charge for people to connect to our system to the rate. So now the rate is carrying 20% of the costs associated with capital, which therefore means we have to update our capital rates for 2026. So in front of you this evening are the updated rates for 2026, which include that 20% reduction, but a 3% increase for CPI, which is pretty standard, and we apply that. We will continue to apply that moving forward until council has any changes they want to see further. For further clarification, water right now in 2025 is $17,000-ish to connect. It'll go down to $14,000. and wastewater is 10,000, and it'll go down to 8,000 for the connection. So that's the change you're seeing there.
Thank you very much for that. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
No, Mr. Mayor, we discussed this at the last meeting, so I'm good to go. Thank you.
Good to hear. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And the pilot project update. Madam Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as council's aware, at the last meeting, we did ask for permission to proceed with doing a pilot project due to the ongoing drought situation we have in Winchester. So we went ahead with the $20,000 and we did a pilot project for trucking water. And the results are in front of council. So it was very, the program that we started, the information we collected from it was very well received. We learned a lot from this process. We have never done something like this before in North Dundas, so a lot of lessons were learned. So we were able to get, we used one truck and did 4 loads a day, and that kind of helped us figure out what long-term, if we needed to truck more water, what that would look like. And as council is aware, in the package, it outlines that we believe we could do 3 trucks with 5 loads a day, which is still not quite what we would need in terms of water if we were to lose one of our major well systems. So that being said, we continue to look for other options, but knowing that information now, we know exactly how much more water we need and where we can get it from or options to get it from in the future. So some of the key takeaways that I just want to highlight for council is one of them being we only have 1 wet well in Winchester, which is problematic. So we only have 1 place in Winchester where we can inject water into our distribution system. So moving forward, when we look at capital projects in the future, we will look at incorporating another wet well because that will long-term serve the township better. The physical location of our water reservoir, which is where our wet well is located, is not ideal. It's a narrow, Davidson Lane is very narrow. So looking at...
If I may interrupt you, it's not ideal for the trucking of water. It's ideal for what it does, but
Correct.
not for accepting water.
Correct. So if we were ever into an emergency situation, it's not ideal for the trucking of water, as 2 trucks cannot pass each other on that road. We also acknowledge that if we decide to do more than 3 trucks, we will need another fill station, meaning the current partner municipality that we were using, we would have to find another partner because it takes too long to fill. We would need an alternative fill station, and there are other alternatives within SDNG or the City of Ottawa that we can look for that. And then one of the successful stories that I wanted to share with council is at the last meeting, you also approved some upgrades to Wellfield 6. So Wellfield 6, as council will recall, is biofouling, which means there's a film that has begun to grow on the inside of the pump intake, which reduces the ability of it to pump properly. So while we were trucking in water, we took that opportunity to take that well offline to do some maintenance with the added water we had coming in. And while we were doing that, we were able to restore it back to a better pump rate. So it was operating about 5 or 6 liters per second, and now we're up to 14 liters per second, and we continue to increase that, and we do so gradually so that we don't see brown water in Winchester. So options to explore moving forward, I think one of them is to ideally try and locate a better wet well situation for the town of Winchester, and then also looking at Chesterville and seeing how we can utilize Chesterville Reservoir a little bit more and send some of the water from Chesterville to Winchester, as there was an investment made by council some years ago to loop the 2 together. So looking at utilizing that so that we don't have to be too concerned. All of this information and anything we learn moving forward will be brought back in 2026 so that council has a plan moving forward. If there is another drought situation, we know exactly what we're going to do and how it's going to work. So all that information will be brought back again in 2026 for you to review.
Thank you very much for all of that, and it was interesting to go through that and to understand the challenges and possibilities. Questions, comments from members of council? Thoughts? Thank you for that. And I see that the 6.7C of draft water, is that to be presented? Okay, draft water supply bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is, I promise, the last thing that I have for water this evening. So as council's aware, we have gone back and forth about updating our bylaw for water for some time now. So our existing bylaw is dated, and it's also not very enforceable in regards to conservation measures that council, I think this council would like to see. So instead of reading through the immense bylaw, I am in my report looking for some specific areas of feedback, Mayor. If you don't mind if I go through each section and perhaps take a pause, and if council has something that they would like added or removed, I can do that, take notes at this session. This will be brought back at a future council meeting because I understand it's quite a bit for council to digest this evening. But I'm just looking for some initial feedback. This does have to go through legal review, and we also have to set fines to the Attorney General. So it's not looking to be put in place this evening, but rather me get a better sense of where council sits on some of these ideas, and then I'll bring back something for council to review again.
Yes, of course. And I just asked council, you may have a lot of thoughts and ideas about this, but if you could just maybe express one or two, but make notes, and then in the very near future, touch base with Director Ward and continue that. So please go ahead.
So one of the first sections, Mayor, that I'm looking for some feedback on is the water meters. So currently, right now, you can have a water supply without a township-issued water meter. So one of the things we'd like to change is ensuring that every connection has a township-issued RF meter, radio frequency. Council's aware we just spent lots of money upgrading all of the meters in Winchester to be RF. All of the meters in Chesterville are also RF, so moving forward, we would like every connection to have that in order to be connected to our system. So some feedback looking for that as well. Is it okay if I just go through each section? Is that okay? Thank you, Mayor. All the water supplied to a property will be required to pass through a water meter. And then if the township feels the water's not being passed through the meter, we have the ability to shut the water off immediately. And then also there's a section D there which is new as well, is looking at introducing meter chambers. So if the township feels that there's a large service servicing a larger consumer, where they have the potential to branch off from a main connection, a meter chamber is required at the property line to put a meter in that chamber, and then that way you can control, how much water is coming into the site regardless of where it branches off from. And then any installation of private meters will not be the responsibility of the corporation to read. So those are kind of all new to our bylaw that don't exist now. So if there's any feedback on that section.
So thoughts on water meters? Deputy Mayor.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. I think everyone who takes communal water should be on a township meter, absolutely. And I also like the idea where you said if it's a large user, it's closer to the property line, and then we can more assess how much water is going to the property. Absolutely. Thank you.
Everyone's on board with all that?
The next section I'm looking for some feedback on is that the owner shall be billed for all water passing through the water meter, whether used or wasted. Unpaid balances and interests will be tax rolled. That's currently how we are doing it, and I'd like to get permission to continue to do that. So that's the next section.
Everyone fine?
Okay. Number 3 is heating, cooling, and heat pumps. So mainly here, we're looking to make sure that council's okay not providing water for the use of air conditioning, refrigeration, or heat equipment, save and except for recirculation systems or boiler blowdowns. So we would not be promoting the use of heat pumps through our bylaw. So you would not be
Are
able to
heat
have-
pumps total loss? Is that the idea?
So heat pumps use water to circulate heat. So you're also eliminating some forms of in-floor heating.
Councillor Rick, then Deputy Mayor.
Not to put you on the spot necessarily, but is this facility not heated by heat pumps? This building we're currently sitting in? Just seems a little cowardly on our part, doesn't it?
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so when it comes to those types of heat pumps, there's two possibilities because I have one at home, but I'm on private well, and it's not from my well, it's a closed circuit one. It's a closed unit. We put water in it the first time, which is, I think, what you're saying here. We'll supply the water the first time, and then it's a closed unit, and it goes around, and it keeps doing either heating or cooling. The heat pumps here are well to well. So it's a private well coming out of that well and going into another well. So it's not doing what she's suggesting here, where someone would have water coming in to heat cool, and then it would go off into the lagoon. And this is what you're describing, right?
That's correct.
Right.
So if I could just clarify the first point, Mayor. So the township system right now is not on the water system as we know it, so it doesn't qualify. But to your point, Councillor Yurig, if someone were to build a facility and use water to recirculate heat continuously and not have a closed loop system, then that would not be permitted. There is some more wording in Section 8 that clarifies that. I didn't put it in this part, but if you read through, it does clarify that. But yes, we would be prohibiting that. But the township building is not fitting that.
We're fine. Councillor Lennox.
Yeah, just some refinement on here next time it comes up, definitely. With in-floor heating, that may scare away some shops opening up business here and et cetera. So I would like to see some refinement, please.
Okay, the next section is about conservation. So I think this is one of the main reasons why council wanted to look at this bylaw. So the water use on outdoor water use will continue to be based on civic addresses. So watering on odd and even days, that'll continue to be the same practice. However, what's new is no outside water will be permitted on Sundays. No water use during a rainfall or watering or washing a driveway, walkway, or roadway is permitted. Outside water use shall be between 5 and 7 a.m. and 8 to 10 p.m. And then new sod can be watered each day during the times noted above for 1 week. So council will note some of these things like the 5 to 7 a.m. and the 8 to 10 p.m. is during, is off-peak for us here. So if someone wants to use a surplus of water during that time, there's not increased demand elsewhere for it to feed. So we would have the ability to service that a little bit better. And also, no outside water use on Sunday is very common in other municipalities, and the idea is to be able to give the system a rest. There is still water being used, but not to a large amount, I guess. So it's a common practice.
Comfortable? Councillor Lennox, Yurig? Why? Why?
I don't. It's okay.
You don't even look alike.
It's okay. I don't take any issue with these suggestions. I guess it's more from a bylaw perspective. Are we going to have better alignment on that side of things? Because it's one thing to put these in and then to be monitored or safeguarded against, I guess, is issue. Because there's at least 2 residents I can think of this summer that was watering consistently, even with the conditions we put in place. So to say all this is well and fine, but to not enact or abide by on our own part, just from a lack of bylaw or just not observing it, I guess, is the challenge from that perspective.
So through you, Mayor, we have had discussions with the bylaw enforcement team about this bylaw, and they have preliminarily gone through it. There is definitely, like you're saying, some enforcement challenges. We do operate, I looked at Director Poole if he wants to correct me, but we do operate on a complaint basis. But what this bylaw allows us to do is have the verbiage there. If someone is misusing water, we now have the ability to say that that's not okay, and then there would be an associated fine. Right now, we don't necessarily have the appropriate verbiage to do that, and this is just cleaning that up and making sure it is something we can enforce when we need to enforce it.
Perfect, thank you.
To the Sunday thing, the Sunday ban, if you would. And you say it's becoming more and more common, or it is common in some or it is taking place in some municipalities. I know this summer, whenever we were escalating into the crisis, I had an opportunity to talk to a few people that were surprised that we even allow watering of lawns during the heat of the summer. They found, and these are younger people, granted, and maybe more aware of the challenges of climate change, and they were not happy with the idea that we would even consider allowing that. So I think that may be coming down the road eventually, maybe not in our time on this council or the next council, but I think that's something that we should be aware of, that as things change around us, that watering of lawns may be seen as a luxury and maybe frivolous. We survived. Whenever the rain started again, our lawn survived. They turned green again, excuse me, very quickly. So it wasn't the end of lawns. in North Dundas whenever we restricted the water. So anyway, try not to keep sidetracking the discussion. Please go ahead.
So number 5 is conservation measures during a low water response. So this is new, and this is something that we don't really see in other areas right now. So a lot of municipalities are looking at this now because it's obviously become an issue during the drought this year. So it looks at kind of dialing down the water use during low water responses. So as council is aware, there's a level 2 and then there's a level 3. So right now, for clarification, we are in a level 3, which means no non-essential use of water is permitted. So if you're not an essential use as deemed, you're not allowed to use water. So basically this outlines that a little bit clearer for residents and also for businesses on how that works. And then these would come into play when those low water responses are issued by the Conservation Authority. So the township would then be following a level 2 or a level 3, depending on what the Conservation Authority classes the drought as. So level 2, hand watering will be permitted. So instead of using a hose, you can use a bucket of water from your sink and you can take it to each plant if that's what you choose to do. There's no car or building washing, and large users will be required to cut consumption by 20%. A level 3, no outside water use permitted whatsoever. No new grass, sod, or landscaping water, to water that is permitted. You can always bring in outside water to do that if you choose to. No recreational use of water will be permitted. So this does have some impacts even on the township's own purposes. So just keep that in mind. And then large water users who use more than 500 cubic meters per day are required to cut consumption by 20%. So that's pretty much the same. The only thing I want to highlight for council is if a large user has a water conservation plan or a water audit in place, then we would consider that to be part of their 20%. So if they are actively conserving water and it is known to the township on how that's achieved, then we wouldn't ask them to cut back any additional water.
Everyone's comfortable with that? Good?
Okay. Section 12 is the declaration of emergency. So hopefully we don't run into this, and hopefully we never do. But this is basically comes to be if a prolonged and worsening low water response on a level 3 becomes a really large issue. So this is when the static water level is below, is 0.5 above the pump intake. So when we see all of our wells get to a point where there's only 0.5 meters of water above the screen, then this also will be enacted. There's also the ability for us to enact this if there's a major transmission or water main break. So for example, if we were to lose the main that comes from Wellfield 7, this would allow council to enact this right away, or a catastrophic loss in the system. Again, ultimately, council will be responsible. We would, through the CAO and the director, the information would come to council, and you would determine if you would like to declare an emergency. And then basically what that allows council to do is to continue to accept large water users, but you can cut their consumption to essential use only. There needs to be some refinement on that definition. I'm not going to admit that I have it narrowed down, but our legal team has reviewed that, and I will share that at the next council meeting what that definition looks like.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're good. Okay. And then I think the last one is 7, so I'll go through this really quickly. So these are prohibitions. So these are things that will no longer be permitted. So willfully wasting water. No person shall take and sell water from the township system. We've actually run into this a couple times since I've started, where we're actually giving water to people and then they're turning around and selling it. So that's obviously not something that we want to be doing. No person shall open or close any curb stops or hydrants. Again, this was practiced previously. It's not a good practice to have. This is how you get contamination or some issues with operations. And no person shall throw or deposit offensive matter into the municipal drinking water system. And this also applies to source protection areas. So there is source protection laws that are in place, but it also allows council to enact this bylaw if they feel that someone is intentionally doing something in a source water protection area that they shouldn't be doing, and we can enact this right away.
Yep.
And then no person shall alter our water meter, which we kind of already talked about. But that's pretty much all of the information I'm looking for. The rest of the bylaw is primarily based on existing regulations, but I'm willing to take feedback, like you said, Mayor, at a later date if council sees fit, and we can incorporate anything else you're looking for.
Okay, yeah, whenever those potential additions are brought forward, if we have a chance to understand what the additions were, and then I guess the balance of the council will have an opportunity to weigh in on that. Is that all water?
Yep, I hope so. For now.
For now. It's always for now. Thank you very much for all of that. I appreciate it. We're going to move into the consent agenda, moved by Councillor Annabelle, second by Councillor Lennox, that all items listed under the consent agenda be approved/filed as recommended. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. We have some communication. I'm not going to discuss that. The Board of SNC Board of Directors, that's included. Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus is included in our packages. There's no items for consideration. Any notices of motions? None. Boards and committees, County Council, Deputy Mayor.
So at the county's meeting on Monday, we had a delegation for the high-speed electric train rail from Toronto to Quebec City. The route that they're planning is Toronto, Peterborough, Ottawa, and then Laval, Montreal, Trois-Rivières, and Quebec. The train is expected to be going over 300 kilometers per hour and maybe 30 trains per day each way, 60 trains. So there were two main questions, and of course, we're being bypassed all along. You know, the Kingston route is now being bypassed and is going through Peterborough, which is, you know, Canadian Shield country all the way across. The other comment was some people were asking if it was going to be all above ground on stilts or whatever you call them, because it's going so fast and there's so many trains. They're worried about wildlife. There also were comments about, for instance, over here, there are some farm lanes or driveways that cross a railroad track. You wouldn't be on a tractor and all of a sudden, you know, something coming whizzing by you at 30 kilometers an hour. And so what, you know, they would be doing for that. There's going to be some public meetings still in the future before this happens. Then there was a thing about the counties will be cost sharing for the Alvin Runnels Forest, the forest fire. That was supported by all, but it was deferred because the mayor asked for a deferral pending on the actual wages of the firefighters from outside of our township so that we would have an accurate number. And then there was, we passed a motion to tell the government of Ontario that we are certainly against the amalgamation of the conservation authorities. I don't know if you've heard, but they want to do 36 conservation authorities down to 6 or 7. And our conservation would then be from the Quebec border up to Bancroft to Kingston. And so then you don't know where they will put the main office. They don't know our areas. And right now we have a good relationship with our conservation authority that knows our territory, what we do. You can call them by first name. If something is delayed, you can speak to someone. And so definitely we are not in favor of amalgamation, so we don't know what will happen. And if maybe you can think of more things, Mr. Mayor? Okay.
Thank you. Parade of Lights, the Parade of Lights, bear with me, December 6th, is that the first Saturday? December 6th. I should know that better than that. So the Parade of Lights, December 6th. The applications are coming in to the committee, or signing up to enter a float. And the big news is that there'll be a 5 to 7 minute fireworks display taking place at the hill, or at the Winchester 100 Club Park, put it that way. And that promised to be good. And why that fireworks display is taking place, if you recall, January 1st, it was postponed because of an emergency, medical emergency. So the display was postponed for about a week. And then the fireworks were set off at North Dundas High, and part of being partnering with us, the fireworks company. They have offered to put on a 5 to 7 minute display at some point, and the Parade of Lights seems to be the most appropriate one, and it should promise to be a good ending to a fantastic parade. The Garden Party Market takes place this Saturday. I believe the weather is going to be quite cooperative, sunny and cloudy and 3 degrees. Sunny and cloudy at the same time. That's why it's going to work. So it's going to be a good day. And I anticipate, as other years, lots of people will show up and enjoy the Garden Party Market. Art in the Waterfront, Councillor Annabelle, anything?
A couple of years ago, they used to run it 2 days back to back. Then last year, they did it a day and a half back to back. And this year, they decided to cut it back to 1 day. And they've had a few people that have left the committee, and they're looking for new people to work on the committee.
Thank you. Chesterfield Carnival? Councillor Urick? Nothing? Green Action Gang? Dairy Fest, do you want to give a recap of what we heard earlier?
Not a recap, but I just wanted to say that the new chair is Angela Armstrong Baker, the new chairman for Dairy Fest for 2026.
Well, that's good to hear, and thank you to Angela Armstrong Baker for taking up the challenge. Downtown Winchester, one or the other?
The only thing that's gone on there, we put the poppies on the main corner for Remembrance Day.
Thank you, and Councillor Urick?
And the 2 historic plaques are now erected.
That's right.
One in Sweet Corner Park and one down at the Senate Garden at the corner of Albert and Main Street here in Winchester.
Right.
So the final 2, I believe, for the historic plaque program of the counties.
Right. The current program, I think it's on hiatus right now.
Correct.
And just an update, I think the Legion banners are coming down shortly, and the Christmas decorations are going to be going up shortly at the same time. And I think that's maybe next week. Morwood Rec, Councillor Lennox.
Some save the dates for you. Tree lighting ceremony at the Veterans View Park, November 28th at 6:30, lights on at 7 p.m. Lawn Tractor Parade, December 13th, and this is the best event all year in North Dundas. At 6 p.m., more details are coming. I did send the updated minutes to Nancy, and she will circulate them to us. And then Winter Carnival is scheduled for January 30th to February 1st. More updates to come.
And to share your enthusiasm on the lawn tractor parade, I encourage anyone that has a lawn tractor, and it has to be a small tractor, to consider participating in the Morwood Tractor Parade. It is a great event supporting a great cause. I believe it was Naomi House. It was Naomi House last year. They were supporting Naomi House, and the participation from the residents and ensuring that there was lots of support provided and donations. And the parade, it's a lot of fun, especially for us guys that don't have big tractors. So thank you for the recap. Council comments, seeing none in camera. Okay, we're going to now move into our in-camera session, and that's moved by Councillor Lennox and Councillor Urick. That council proceed to closed session at 6:07 p.m. Pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392, subsection D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and Section 2392, subsection 8, information especially supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board by Canada, a province or a territory or a crown agency of any of them, and Section 2392, subsection I, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. welcome back to everyone that's still with us. We're going to move into open session, moved by Councillor Urick, seconded by Councillor Annabelle. Be it resolved that council return to open session at 6:31 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? That's carried. Okay, we met in camera to discuss a few topics. The first topic pertaining to a staffing decision for that matter. I'll read the following resolution. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, seconded by Councillor Lennox. Be resolved that staff proceed as directed during closed session. All those in favor? Opposed, seeing none, that's carried. The second issue we discussed pertained to the hiring of consultants to assist the township with funding applications and other services. Their agreements combined contain confidential information, so they're reviewed in camera. With regards to these discussions, I'll read the following resolutions. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, second by Councillor Lennox. Be it resolved that council authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Grant Match Corporation for the purpose of identifying, preparing, and managing funding applications on behalf of the township as per the terms outlined in their agreement. All those in favor? Opposed? See none. That's carried. And the second one, moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Urick. Be it resolved that council authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Strategy Corp for government relations and public affairs services, and further that $60,000 be pre-approved in the 2026 municipal budget to support the continuation of Strategy Corp services. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And we're going to move to adjournment, moved by Councillor Lennox, second by Councillor Urick. The council adjourn at 6:33 p.m. to the call of the chair. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience and your attention to tonight's meeting.